So I constantly get asked questions about how many times a week should I text somebody when I am first getting to know them or date them? How many phone calls should we expect to have a week? How quickly should we move from going on our first date or talking to actually becoming exclusive or invested in a monogamous relationship, perhaps? There are so many different important perspectives to understand about this, but in this video today, we are going to cover what this looks like specifically for a securely attached person, how long their timelines tend to be, both in the dating and honeymoon stages of a relationship. So stay tuned for this exclusive sneak peek from a very in depth webinar I did at the Personal Development School with more of our in depth content, where we talk about the different timelines and how they affect a secure attachment style when texting, talking on the phone, and really making a commitment to dating or being exclusive. So I hope you enjoy this. Really excited to be sharing this with you. And if you want to check out more webinars, we do 6 live webinars a week or more in-depth content at PDS. You can always use the free trial link down below in the description. Now, what I want to do for a few moments here is go into the actual timelines that you'll see and some of the shifts you'll see when it comes to the 6 stages of a relationship and how a securely attached person tends to show up and what they tend to expect. And also, what you'll see as you become more and more secure. So biggest part. So we're switching gears out of the pillars and the overarching themes. We're going right into the stages of a relationship. So dating stage. One of the biggest things that you'll see as a symptom of becoming more securely attached is in the dating stage, dating becomes more intentional. Okay. So there isn't just this like autopilot. And remember, you can like implement these strategies into your life to fast track becoming more securely attached too. So if you hear these things and you're like, oh, I'm not doing that one, start them, right? This will actually help move the needle more quickly. So when it comes to dating, you'll see number one, you know what your standards are, your non negotiables are, and you learn to take yourself into consideration. The old dating stage, when you're really insecurely attached, could be like, well, I'm attracted to this person and I have fun with them. So now I'm going to fully invest in them. And then the second part that you'll see that really changes as you become more secure is you actually vet the person. Okay. So you don't just go into, you'll see a lot of APs in the dating stage. What do? They start dating somebody and then they go into people pleasing. They're like, I'm attracted to the person, I'm interested in them, I have fun, I'm going to people please them, I'm going to try to win them over. But they don't ever say, okay, well, what about this person? Does this person fit into my own life? How does this work for me here? Like, how do I feel about this person? And so as an anxious, preoccupied person, learning to actually vet people, ask questions about what's important to you. Like, you're not going to know if the person has one of your non-negotiables until you have the conversation. So actually being able to say, let's say somebody wants to have kids and you don't want to have kids or vice versa. Well, you got to have that conversation, right? And also you listen to what people tell you. You don't date somebody's potential. I've seen a lot of people go, oh, they said they don't want to have kids and I do want to have kids, but they'll probably change their mind. And it's like, wow, you just violated your non-negotiable. You have to listen to what people are telling you and not be willing to throw yourself and your needs away just to win somebody over because you're missing connection that badly in your life. There's a story, I always used to tell this story and I haven't told in a long time, but it's from the book called The Mastery of Love. It's like a very, very beautiful read. And it's a really easy read too. Anyways, so there's this story in this book and it talks about this magical kitchen and how all these so there's a person and the person has a magical kitchen and the magical kitchen can make all of the food, any food you want, it can make it immediately. And somebody comes to the person's door who has the magical kitchen and they knock on the door and they say, oh, I have a pizza for you. Do you want it? But it comes with all these stipulations. You have to do all these things that I say. And, the person says, well, no, I'm not going to take your pizza with all the stipulations. Like, I've got a magical kitchen. I can make all the pizzas I want. Like, you can come into my kitchen and have some food if you want, but I'm not taking, that bargain. It's not a bargain for me. And then the story goes on and it's something along the lines of then the person no longer has the magical kitchen and the person comes back with the pizza and they say, oh, do you want the pizza? It comes with all the stipulations. Well, the person's more likely to take all the stipulations, all the pain points and challenges with it because they're starving. They have no food. And the analogy is used to describe like what happens and what we're willing to put up with when we don't have self-love, right? And self-love, like it sounds like this sort of funny concept, but self-love means listening to my emotions, building a relationship to my emotions, to my needs, allowing myself to take up space in the world by communicating my needs to others, having boundaries when things are uncomfortable for me. All of these things we talk about from integrated attachment theory, the core wound reprogramming, right? I allow myself to heal these old wounds. I introspect, I sit with myself, I work through these things, right? Core wounds, needs, emotional patterns, boundaries, right? I communicate with other people, I share, so I take up space, and then I work on any painful coping mechanisms or behavior. So as we do these things, we're actually building a very loving relationship to self. And when we get into the dating stage with other people, we're not going to accept a whole bunch of BS because we have no magical kitchen and no food, right? AKA, we have no, you know, feeling of self love. So we'll do anything for it on the outside. We'll put up with all the things. We'll put up with somebody being mean or cruel or, unfair to us because, the things we'll do for love when we're not loving ourselves, right? So you'll see a lot of these really important dynamics. So dating stage becomes a vetting stage. We ask questions. We see, is this person a good fit for our lives? Am I a good fit for their life? And I know what my standards are in a relationship. I know what my non-negotiables are. And if I see red flags, I'm going to talk about them, right? If I see something that I don't like or could be in the path of a non-negotiable, I'm going to say, hey, like, what's going on here with this thing? Because it's important to me in a relationship that we have this, not this. Are you willing to work on that, or what's going on from your end? So we have our back and we support ourselves in moving in the direction of what we want. Okay. So that's the dating stage. The dating stage for a securely attached person, by the way, for those of you who are curious, um, tends to be um, generally 2.5 to 4 months. Okay. So it's interesting because APs, they'll be like 2 weeks. Let's do this. Let's get into a committed relationship. DAs will be like 6 months. Maybe we'll talk about it then. A year, maybe we'll talk about it then. So they have a much extended, dating stage. FAs tend to be around 3 to 4 months, but for different reasons, not necessarily for securely attached reasons, for reasons that they're kind of in the wanting love, wanting connection, fearing it at the same time, and they can kind of go on for so long until about 3 or 4 months. So it tends to be much closer to the securely attached timeline. But their internal relationship to that timeline is very different. It's the ups and downs, the roller coaster, rather than, hey, I feel like I've taken the appropriate time to vet and ask hard questions and really get to know this person and see that it's a worthwhile commitment. So you'll see a lot of that. The next big piece here is when it comes to the honeymoon stage. You'll see the honeymoon stage generally last for that from that 6 month period, another year or so for the securely attached person. That tends to mirror most attachment style dynamics. But for the fearful avoidant, often when they're in the honeymoon stage, they actually have an immediate 1 foot in the power struggle stage, because once there's a commitment for the fearful avoidant, there's something that can be broken trust wise. You've committed to focusing your attention on me in the relationship, or to investing in each other, and as soon as there's a commitment that comes up, it can often trigger the trust issues for the FA. So that's their dynamic in the power struggle or in the honeymoon stage. APs in the honeymoon stage definitely are the resistors. I find APs to be the ones that are like, I will never leave this stage. How do we stay here at all times? I will do anything to stay here forever. And they often, when things progress towards the power struggle, they really get scared. They see the natural progression in relationships as being like an unraveling rather than an evolution, right? They see, oh, power struggle, letting people in. Where are the highs, right? Where are the, we're so in love. We have all the chemistry. We have all the, they really try to almost accidentally stunt the growth there. And then we'll see dismissive avoidance in the honeymoon stage. They actually, one of the big things that will come up for DAs is they can start getting afraid in the honeymoon stage. So they can have their feelings minus fears be more in competition. It's not uncommon for a dismissive avoidant to really accidentally kick off the power struggle stage for themselves and their partner by starting to pull away, seemingly out of the blue when dating the other person, but it's not out of the blue in accordance to their internal world. So it's not out of the blue when it comes to them starting to feel more and more vulnerable, because that's what starts happening in the honeymoon stage. And the more and more vulnerability there is, the more fear that comes up and comes online. So this is a big, important space to pay attention to. The uh, power struggle stage is obviously what comes next. The power struggle stage, as I mentioned earlier, can literally last the entire time. Oh, and I want to say one other thing actually. In the honeymoon stage, the thing that the securely attached person does differently is they start integrating the capacity to have hard conversations early on. All three insecurely attached styles, they will tend to have their coping mechanisms around hard conversations. Ds will just avoid, right? FAs will get triggered, but oftentimes they can, through the honeymoon stage, internalize their triggers quite well until in the power struggle stage, they can't. So they might be triggered about things, but they won't speak about them. They won't want to, say too much or say the wrong thing or push the person away. So you'll see fearful avoidance in the honeymoon stage really repressed still a lot of the time. And APs in the honeymoon stage, they often can suppress too many of their clingy or needy behaviors, but a lot of them are usually coming up, right? So they may call a lot more, really try to spend a lot of time together, really push into that space collectively with their partner. Whereas securely attached people, there will be little conflicts in the honeymoon stage, a lot less than when we go into power struggle. But when the conflicts come up, the securely attached person will address them. Hey, this is affecting me. Here's why. Here's what I need. So, what they're doing is they're setting the stage to have an easier power struggle, right? Because you're already starting the work and you're starting the work in the optimal time, right? You're starting the work when everything's really strong. So, it's much easier to do that work when things are great. It's interesting because I would see in sessions with couples, one of the things that stood out to me so profoundly was how if couples were not connected during the week, they would take things so much more personally when they were in a bad spot. So, like, let's say, I'll just give you one example. So, I had this couple, they were both extreme FAs, very, very FA. And they would trigger each other. They had definitely been in this marriage, been in the power struggle stage of their relationship for a very long time when they came to me. And what I noticed in the first few weeks of working together is if they made time for conscious connection during the week, like just 15 minutes a day here and there where they could, and then made sure they had like a date night and solid time, when they would, because I would wait for them to get set off by each other because they would always get into arguments the first few weeks. And we would be like, okay, we have to resolve it. And I noticed with them, and then I saw this replicated over and over and over again with other couples. Um, I saw that if they had time together and they were in a good space, that they might say something in the session when we were unpacking all these old things, and one person might throw a shot or a jab. And the other person, I would go, oh, I think in my head, oh, here it comes. The person's going to get triggered. But because they had a good week, it's like they could weather criticism so differently and they wouldn't be reactive. And I was thinking, geez, like they haven't done enough reprogramming yet to see such a profound shift. And then another week, if they were not there, there was one week where they didn't spend time together right after that. And I thought, oh, they've come such a long way after just a week or two of this. And then the next week they got really set off. And I started to see that pattern unfolding where depending on like the connection, that would have a massive impact on how much they could weather challenges. So from that perspective, if we sort of extrapolate that out to a whole relationship, do the hard work in the honeymoon stage, have the conversations early. When you're doing them from a space of like it being easier, it's only going to make the power struggle stage a little bit of a stretch, right? It's not going to be something where it's like really, really hard and we're starting from scratch. So, really important thing to keep in mind. I hope you enjoyed this sneak peek from one of our webinars. We have 6 live webinars every single week. There's tons of time to come into those webinars, get your questions answered. And we have a past webinar library of many, many webinars about all sorts of different topics, as well as over 60 different courses that can really help you tackle everything from healing your attachment style and reprogramming core wounds to becoming the master of your own emotional state, learning your deep relationship needs and personal needs, as well as how to fulfill them, discovering your boundaries, breaking codependency, healing stress in the workplace. I mean, you name it, we've got all sorts of things in there waiting for you. If you want to check it out, you can use the 7-day free trial link down below in the description and gain access to all the resources at the Personal Development School, as well as you can come in and ask me your personal live questions, and I will be there to support you and answer anything that you have. I hope you enjoyed this. Thank you so much for watching, and please subscribe if you are enjoying this channel.